Good evening, JDRF riders, family and friends, and welcome to our online celebration of this year's JDRF My Ride, presented by Livongo. I'm Tim Ryan, and I'm happy to be back with you after an awesome day of riding out near my home in Washington, D.C. I know it's still only 5 p.m. on the West Coast, so some of you riders might still be out on the road, but I hope the rest of you have crossed on your own finish line and gotten a chance to rest and maybe even gotten a shower. I was told I had to do that, so yeah. So yes, this is a celebration. And just like last night, you're going to be seeing and hearing from the members of our incredible JDRF ride community during this short program. And as is our tradition, we're going to be presenting some coveted JDRF ride jerseys to some really deserving people. So sit back, take a sip of that well-deserved post-ride beer or other beverage of choice, if you've got one, and let's get started. JDRF is lucky to have a dedicated family of corporate partners who have stuck with the ride program even during this crazy pandemic. One of those remarkable organizations is Livongo Health, which stepped up big time to sponsor our entire online celebration this year. Livongo has always been committed to the cause, as a full third of their employees are living with diabetes. Another third have family members who also struggle with chronic conditions. Their commitment is personal, and it shows. So please welcome Regional Vice President, Client Sales at Livongo, Chris Mack.
Hi, my name is Chris Mack, and I've been with T1D for over 24 years. While it has certainly been a roller coaster at times, I have not let T1D stand in the way of things I want in life, especially when it comes to supporting JDRF. Since my first JDRF ride with Team Livongo in 2018, each mile has been about finding the cure, but those miles are about so much more. Those miles are about supporting parents who've lost sleep each night since their child's diagnosis, supporting individuals who struggle each and every day to manage their blood glucose levels, and supporting all of us who struggle with insulin affordability. I am so proud and grateful to be a part of Team Livongo. When Team Livongo was founded 5 years ago, there were only 3 riders. Since then, we've grown to over 150 riders, covering 40,000 miles and raised over $1 million for T1D. So when plans changed due to the pandemic, there was no doubt that Team Livongo would remain at your side, riding towards a cure. On behalf of Team Livongo, thank you for continuing to fundraise, to ride, and to keep the spirit of the ride alive in 2020. Looking forward to seeing you in person in 2021.
One of the best aspects of the JDRF Ride Corporate Partner Program is the fact that so many companies get the chance to build teams of riders who take part in our rides all across the country. And this year is no different. As partner teams hit the road once again this weekend, we want to take a moment to recognize our 2020 Go the Distance partners now. Special thanks to Ford, Hy-Vee, Livongo, Medtronic, and Novo Nordisk. The JDRF Ride program has always been a powerhouse fundraiser for this organization, delivering essential funds that JDRF needs to continue its life-changing work. And just like our corporate partners who stuck with us this year, our overall ride community absolutely blew fundraising out of the water. No matter how much you raised for your ride this year, thank you. And to our very top fundraisers, a special shout out for everything you've done to raise some mind-blowing amounts, even in the face of this global pandemic. Our top 10 individual fundraisers as of Wednesday are on the screen now. And this year, our top 3 fundraisers are so close and have raised so much that we're going to bestow the fabled green jersey on all of them as I tell you about each one of them. This is Brian Vanderberg's 5th year and 6th ride with JDRF. He came to the organization with no direct connection to T1D, but since then has made countless connections. The Vanderberg family has personally given more than $300,000 to JDRF and raised close to $150,000 more for the ride program. Glenn Tallman first got involved with JDRF in the early 1990s when his niece was diagnosed, and he got even more involved and connected when his son was diagnosed at age 9. Back for his 4th year riding, Glenn has been a driving force behind Livongo's significant partnership at the event. He's all in for JDRF, having served as the Chancellor to JDRF's International Board of Directors and as a Life Director for the Illinois chapter. In 2015, Jack Gentine was diagnosed with T1D at the age of 13. JDRF has helped him continue to do the things he loves, like golfing, playing basketball, climbing 14,000 feet in mountains, and of course, riding a bike. The family supported JDRF and their local JDRF walk in Wisconsin for many years before Jack was diagnosed. And last year, Jack and his dad Louie rode for the first time in the RIDE program. Jack and Louie are back again this year, and Jack at such a young age has emerged as a fearless fundraiser. Congratulations and thank you to our top fundraisers for your incredible work. We are that much closer to a world free of T1D because of you. As you can see, I'm not wearing my JDRF jersey from today's ride because, well, sometimes a guy needs a shower before he goes on the national interwebs. But I love my JDRF cycling jerseys, and I know so many of you do too. This year we had a special 2020 jersey designed by a JDRF rider as a fundraising incentive. Every participant who raises at least $2,020, 2020, get it? Gets one. That sweet piece of shiny fabric has gone out to more than 500 of you so far. So if you don't have one yet, well, don't worry. You still have till the end of the year to earn yours. Now it's time to talk about more jerseys. And not just any jerseys, but JDRF Ride Honor jerseys, which go to some people who inspire us and make us proud. We're going to present some honor jerseys tonight, and with each one, I hope you'll send your love and congratulations in the chat for everyone to see. First up, the Youth Rider jersey, presented to a young person who represents what we want the future to look like. We've got a previous Youth Rider jersey recipient with us to tell you a bit more about his journey and what it's like to earn a Youth Rider jersey. Please welcome Nathan Dent.
My mom started riding for JDRF in 2004 in Death Valley. My father joined her the following year, and by 2007, my parents had bought me a bike and told me that I could begin training. Being a Type 1, I started riding for myself. Over the years, I've ridden hundreds of miles for JDRF in different venues and with just about every member of my extended family. And now, I've learned that I don't just ride for myself. I ride for those around me and for the people that I'll never meet. I ride and now coach for everyone at the starting line, everyone supporting us at the rest stops, everyone ringing the cowbells, and everyone who donated to our cause. I owe so much to the JDRF rides, including the chance to meet the love of my life, Katie. Katie and her family started riding for JDRF with no connection to T1D. And I asked Katie to marry me a couple of years ago on stage in Amelia Island. Thankfully, she said yes in front of my JDRF family. I was given the honor of wearing the white Youth Rider jersey after my first ride in Death Valley in 2007. My mom and dad presented the jersey to me on stage, and I remember how immensely honored and humbled I was to get to wear it that night and many times throughout the years until it didn't fit me any longer. Now that I'm pushing 27, I still get excited to say that I wore the Youth Rider jersey, and I'm still as committed as ever to helping JDRF turn Type 1 into Type None.
Thanks, Nathan, and congratulations on everything you've accomplished both on and off your bike. This year's Youth Rider jersey goes to a young man who is definitely following in Nathan's footsteps, or his tire tracks. He's from Grand Rapids, Michigan, and signed up for his very first JDRF ride this year in support of his cousin Shannon. And when he heard that the Grand Rapids ride wasn't going to happen, well, that didn't stop him. On what would have been the ride weekend in July, he and his dad Ray rode twice around Torch Lake. That's 100 miles. And together they raised more than $4,000. And by the way, he's only 13 years old. The 2020 Youth Rider jersey goes to someone who I think we'll be seeing a lot more of on the road in the future, Henry Lincolnhall. There are a lot of words you can use to describe the JDRF ride. Words like passion, courage, determination, strength, and love. But words can only go so far. The spirit of the JDRF ride truly lives in our people. The people who raise the money, train the miles, and put on the jerseys. And this year, we've seen the JDRF ride spirit live on even up against the most challenging circumstances. Some incredible people have worn the Spirit jersey over the years, and incredible is a good word to describe the woman who's going to tell you a little bit more about her journey with T1D and the ride. So please, a hearty welcome to Alicia Wesley.
I've been part of the JDRF family since 1979 when I was diagnosed with T1D. In 2015, I switched from the JDRF Walk program to the JDRF Ride program to tackle a new challenge and drive even more funding to T1D research. On that first ride weekend in 2015, I sat in the audience and listened as Mike Clark described the Spirit jersey recipient. Confused, I looked at my sister nodding and realized Mike was talking about me. I hadn't finished the 100 miles. I ended up in an ambulance at the first rest stop. How could I possibly be getting an award for that? Well, honored seems like such a small word to describe how I felt then, and all these years later, how I still feel now. Eventually, I did finish more than 100 miles for JDRF, a few times. The ride has taught me about cycling, but much more about kindness, friendship, determination, and what it means to truly be part of a community. Every year, the Spirit jersey is presented to a rider, volunteer, or coach who personifies the spirit of the ride. Those of us who have had the honor of wearing the polka-dotted jersey do so with great pride. And this year, we take tremendous pride welcoming a new Spirit jersey recipient to the JDRF Ride family.
Thanks, Alicia. This year's Spirit jersey goes to a woman who absolutely personifies the JDRF Ride community. This is her 10th year with T1D, and she planned on celebrating her diversity by riding with our entire community. But COVID happened, right? So she had to go to Plan B, and that was to ride 100 miles along the coast of North Carolina on her diagnosis day, August 7th. Well, Hurricane Isaias came through 3 days before and ruined Plan B. So she went to Plan C, which was riding closer to home in Charlotte with some of her best riding buddies. 101 miles in under 6 hours. Oh, I almost forgot, her co-pilot. She's pregnant with a little boy and in her second trimester. So let me quote a line from her fundraising page. I will be damned if I don't try to help fundraise for prevention, so our sweet baby boy never has to be given this lifelong burden of having this beast. She took that quote to heart and raised more than $30,000 for this year's ride. So for being an absolute badass and having the spirit and perseverance to ride no matter what, the 2020 Spirit jersey goes to Dana Cumberworth. We've got one more honor jersey to present tonight, and this one has the most incredible backstory. But rather than me tell it, I think it's better to have someone who witnessed it firsthand give you the inspiring details. Here's longtime JDRF rider Gail Williams.
I would like to tell you a story about my friend Rose Wisner. She was a longtime rider of my JDRF Northwest chapter who rode for her daughter who has T1D. Before I met her, Rose had made a promise to her daughter that she would ride until there was a cure for T1D. Our community was heartbroken when Rose was diagnosed with a brain tumor. Despite that diagnosis, she rode at La Crosse that summer. Even though she wasn't able to finish that ride, she committed to riding the following year in Lake Tahoe. Unfortunately, Rose's health was declining, So one of our team's coaches arranged to hook an adaptive trailer to her bike so that Rose could honor that promise to her daughter and ride for an inspiring portion of the event. Rose's smile with the wind in her face is something I will never forget. That night, Rose received the Spirit jersey, and even though talking was difficult for her, she made an impassioned plea. She said, "If I'm not around to keep that promise, I'm asking all of you to keep riding, keep fundraising, and keep my promise alive." Lake Tahoe turned out to be Rose's last ride, but her promise does live on in our community through the Promise jersey, appropriately emblazoned with a rose in its center. The Promise jersey is presented to someone who does not have T1D, but has shown passionate dedication to JDRF over the long haul. He or she is a role model for our community and embodies the type of person who will forever keep Rose's promise to never stop until there is a cure for T1D.
That is one of my favorite JDRF ride stories, and I'm so glad that we're able to keep the tradition of the Promise jersey going this year. And I'm even more glad to tell you who's going to get it. Her daughter Hannah was diagnosed with T1D in 2011, but she didn't waste much time getting on her bike for JDRF as she started riding the very next year. She's held just about every position as volunteer for both JDRF and the ride, and was awarded the coveted Volunteer of the Year award last year for her Southwest Ohio chapter. This year marks her 17th JDRF ride, and her family just passed the $200,000 fundraising mark for their efforts over the years. With all that on her resume, she certainly deserves this recognition. But it's what she did this year, of all years, that really speaks to her creativity and her passion for this cause. She knew her fundraising would need to be different. And on her training rides, she often passes an empty farm field. So she and her daughters approached the farmer about, planting more than 1,000 sunflower seeds in that area. He said yes, and soon they had planted a 6-foot by 100-foot section. Those flowers have now bloomed, and she's now selling them to raise at least $12,500 for JDRF. She's also ridden her bike more than 100 times since the pandemic started, and now passing her beautiful fields of bright and hopeful sunflowers every single time. So, for bringing the light, bringing the love, and the inspiration to everything she does, the 2020 JDRF Ride Promise jersey goes to Petra Vester. No matter where you rode today, no matter how far you rode, you were part of the JDRF Ride family. And from looking at those family photos that were submitted during your training and on today's ride, it looks like you were having an absolute blast out there. Some were on Peloton and Swift, some were taking it on the hills, some were cruising by the beach. There's an incredible freedom that cycling brings to everyone in a different way. And when we all ride together, we're also helping millions of people get closer to freedom from T1D. We hope you enjoy seeing these great shots, and also hope you'll keep tagging your photos with the hashtag JDRFMyRide every time you get out on the saddle. So I hope you had a great ride, no matter where you may be. So we're about to wrap up tonight's celebration, and we're going to finish things off with what has become the favorite finale at our in-person programs across the country. But first, a few reminders. We do have the World Diabetes Challenge for our ride community, sponsored by Novo Nordisk, coming up in November. So be ready to get back in the saddle for that one. Plus, we're also going to be announcing some amazing prizes that will be raffled off as part of that event. So the more you fundraise, the more chances you'll have to win. And while nobody really knows what the world's going to look like in 2021, we expect we'll be able to come together in person next year. And know that the JDRF team is already planning ahead, so that if we can ride together next year, we absolutely will. So stay tuned for more information on that there too. And remember that the RideJDRF.org and the Ride social channels Those are the best ways to stay up to date and stay plugged in. Over the years, the JDRF Ride to Cure program has made one fact abundantly clear. We're part of a unique, powerful community. Individually, we raise tremendous amounts of money. We challenge ourselves to achieve great feats of endurance, and more often than not, we rise to meet that challenge. And this year has delivered us one of the greatest challenges of our generation. But once again, we've proven that when we come together, all of us from all over the country, and focus on our singular goal, we can accomplish anything, like getting us closer to a world without T1D. So take a look at what this year's JDRF Ride means to our fellow riders.
My wife Sarah was diagnosed when she was 10 and has lived with T1D for the last 20 years. I admire her strength and resilience to not let this disease hold her back from anything, and I am so proud of her each and every day. I ride to show that I'm all in to find a cure for type 1. I'm Tom Florian, and my JDRF ride is for my wife, Sarah.
Type 1 diabetes took my father's life prematurely at age 50 and left my mom, Carol, to raise their 7 children. I was diagnosed with this disease 27 years ago and choose to fight to stay healthy. I ride because if I can help just one child live diabetes-free, it will have been worth all the miles, sweat, tears, bumps and bruises, and money that everyone has donated over my past 13 rides to date. My dad would have turned 75 this month, and we all ride for him. My name is Carla Voorhees. My JDRF ride is for all the T1Ds that can't, for all the families that T1D has affected.
Without the discovery and manufacture of insulin in the 1920s, all 3 of my children would have died from type 1 diabetes at the ages of 2, 5, and 11. I'm deeply grateful that JDRF gives me a way to help bring scientific discoveries to life in our day. I'm Brian Coffey. My JDRF ride is to ensure the best life possible for my children, Sarah, Emily, and Matthew, and people everywhere as we journey from type 1 to type none.
I was 11 years old when I was diagnosed with type 1 diabetes. All I knew about the disease was that Stacy, the cool babysitter from the Babysitters Club books, couldn't eat sweets and had to give herself shots. For years, I felt like type 1 diabetes robbed me of any control over my own physicality, until I discovered bike riding. I ride because when I do, I'm in control of my body, not this disease. I ride because the JDRF ride events and community are inspirational, motivational, and life-changing. I ride because I know that I'm helping millions of others worldwide. I'm Georgie Goldman, and my JDRF ride is for all the people who can't, and who one day, hopefully, won't have to.
I ride for JDRF because I would do anything to advance technology and find a cure for my grandson. 2 days after Christmas in 2016, my then 4-year-old grandson Liam was traveling with me when we ended up in the hospital with a type 1 diabetes diagnosis. As a caregiver, I'll do anything for him. That includes getting on a bike after almost 40 years, falling off my bike during my first JDRF ride last year, and getting bit by a dog on a training ride this year. Nothing is going to scare me away from my hope for a cure. I'm Wendy Moody, and my JDRF ride is for Liam and every other caregiver out there.
We became part of the JDRF ride family through our friends, neighbors, and fellow coach Kent and Jennifer Altman. Kent is type 1, and we felt compelled to show our support beyond our normal annual donations to their rides. Soon we fell in love with a community of amazing riders and their families. The Northeast Wisconsin chapter family and JDRF fill our hearts and fuel our passion to end type 1.
We're Dan and Megan Wolf, and our JDRF ride is to build more community, support, and love.
I ride to honor the strength, good humor, and resilience of my 10-year-old son Beckett, and help support JDRF's invaluable contribution to improving the lives of those living with type 1. and one day, curing the disease. I'm Flynn Ogle, and my JDRF ride is for my son Beckett and every other kid living with T1D.
2 months ago, our lives were turned upside down when our daughter Luca was diagnosed with type 1 diabetes just days before her 5th birthday. Because of COVID protocols, only one of us could be with her in the ER at a time. Even though my husband John and his sister Robin have both had T1D since they were 1 year old, it was a crash course in administering insulin and carb counting for me, all while trying to assure our daughter Luca that she was going to be okay. JDRF has truly become like a family to us, first for John and now for Luca. While we may not be riding together this year, we are absolutely still fundraising because we need a cure now more than ever.
We're John and Lindsay Reitzis, and our ride this year is for Luca and for a future without T1D for everyone.
I ride because it makes me feel empowered. As a mom to 2 type 1 teenagers dealing with an unpredictable disease that often makes you feel defenseless, the ride makes me feel like I'm doing something to get my kids closer to a cure. Riding with so many others reminds me that I am not alone in this fight. The collective we is huge. It's comforting. The camaraderie, the joy, the hope, the fundraising. I always get choked up and shed a tear at the start of each ride because it's such a special moment. I'm Deb Kashoda, and my JDRF ride is for my kids and the entire ride community.
I don't have type 1, but it is my duty to do whatever I can to help those who do. I ride for JDRF because it is so much more than an organization I donate to. It is a family filled with a diverse and inclusive group of people. My Georgia teammates and complete strangers from all over the world are there to pick me up when I inevitably fall off my bike. At JDRF, you're never alone, whether it's in the fight against type 1 diabetes or in the fight against it. I'm Grant Alpern, and my JDRF ride is for my late Aunt Dale, my cousin Jaden, and all of my friends and family who have type 1 diabetes.
So many reasons to ride. So many incredible stories to share. Let us know who and what your JDRF My Ride is in the chat or on social. And in the meantime, thank you for riding. Thank you for raising those essential dollars. And on behalf of everybody in the JDRF Ride community, be safe, be well, rubber side down, good night.